Welcome back, venturers. It's time for another discussion about VNs. I am MR, and together with Tauros, I can't believe we decided to delve into this one. We wish to talk about the ever-expanding universe of Fate. To do so, we've invited back a resident Fate expert. Welcome back to the podcast, August Hale. It's a pleasure to have you.
Hello. It is good to be here. And you say Fate expert, but there's definitely a lot of more people out there that's more experienced than me. I'm just the one who compiled it all together.
So yeah, tell us about yourself. Yeah. Who are you? What have you done?
Well, hi. I'm the August Hale on YouTube. I'm a YouTube content creator specifically for visual novels. I do everything from specific VN spotlight videos to tier lists to general recommendations on visual novels you should read.
And most pointedly, you've also created a video summarizing all sorts of Fate products, from all of the visual novels, anime series, light novels, games, into one packed informative video. And in fact, that's the basis for what we were hoping to do here by inviting you, is to just talk about all of these entries, but not so much on the educational side. That's what your video was all for, after all. And for us, it's more so just talking about some of our likes and dislikes and opinions of which ones really speak to us more so than others. Just to hear some of our more casual thoughts about it. So, I guess, starting us off with the big one, of course, what do you think about Fate Stay Night, August?
Yeah, Fate Stay Night, definitely one of the real OGs when it comes to Fate, the one that kicked off everything so far. Definitely has a very special place in my heart as the one that got me, or at least one of the ones that got me into the Fate franchise. I think Unlimited Blade Works is still out there as like one of my top favorite moments or top favorite stories of all time. But I'm actually curious about what you guys think about Fate, or at least Fate Stay Night itself.
I'm not gonna lie, I don't really like the Heaven's Feel route. It goes.
That's interesting.
I mean, it's good. I can understand why so many people love it so much, but for me, it takes a different departure more into the whole romance side of thing, and that just doesn't really hit with me. I'm obviously here for the action, for the intriguing characters, and then it focuses more on our main character Shiro, and it goes into the Sakura stuff, and it's like I'm missing all of the hype moments and stuff from like Unlimited Blade Works. Maybe I'm basic for that or whatever, but still I like that more,
That's somewhat fair. I mean, I do think Heaven's Feel was more of a inner like character drama / psychological horror at times. But it does have a couple of action scenes in there, but yeah, not as super prevalent as probably Fate or Unlimited Blade Works. So yeah, I can understand where you're going from.
I think the character dynamic between the protagonist and the surrounding cast, most notably Rin Tosaka, has been the most intriguing in the Unlimited Blade Work. In a way that they were the frenemies. She was rival on every step. Unlike the routes of the original Fate. I think the route is called Fate. That doesn't get confusing, okay?
Yeah, just Fate route.
And yeah, a Fate route in Fate. Amazing. And in the Heaven's Feel route, there's some weird thing going on all the time, and Adventures is more of a, like you mentioned, less of a action, more of a horror style. It's a definitely different vibe. When it comes to my favorite route, I keep flip-flopping between the Unlimited Blade Works and Heaven's Feel, and I just can't decide, man. This is just too hard. There is a very personal, for me, a personal experience tied to Fate Stay Night, because not only It was one of the first VNs I've read, but also one of the few I've read synchronized with my best friend. And we kind of compared notes pretty much every week, if not every day, sometimes.
Oh,
So to have those kind of discussions of heaven feels better than Unlimited Blade works is something still on my mind. How fun those kind of discussions were.
It's always better to experience it with a friend or so, especially if you're on the same wavelength or if you're just slightly different, so that you can really get into the details of all that.
Yeah, it seems like everyone has their own like unique perspective on Fate itself, whether it's any of the most recent works or just like if they were reading Fate from all the way back in the day. So everyone has their own unique experiences.
Like, speaking of, for one thing, for Hollow Ataraxia, I think it's a little bit better than Fate's Stay Night. I know, obviously, a lot of people like the OG one more, and, Hollow Ataraxia isn't as popular, but oh man, the tone between the two is great, because half of it is the serious, typical action drama, with a dark atmosphere, and then the other half is like pure comedy. And both of them are perfect, and you can choose your own pacing along the way. I just think Hollow Ataraxia it's so much fun to read.
I think with the structure the Hollow Ataraxia has, it definitely is a little bit more, I don't say easier, to experience that type of vibe, and especially since like the main events in Fate Stay Night is like relatively over, and then you can just see, the rest of the cast is like doing their own thing. So, and it provides, I actually like it for how it provides a little bit more depth into those characters besides, away from the, them trying to kill each other.
If I were to reminisce about events that I liked the most between those two titles, when it comes to Fate Stay Night, those are more of a conflict. It's a moment, they have some sort of confrontation. For example, one of the hypest one has to be the final confrontation in Heaven's Feel. That was just crazy fight. And when I think back on Hollow Ataraxia, majority of scenes I appreciate Hollow Ataraxia aren't the confrontations ones. It's more of all those, finally we have more context about Casta's master, because that didn't really have much explanation in the original. And all those character moments that you cared and maybe you didn't get full context in the original got expanded in Hollow Ataraxia. So it's an interesting contrast between those two. How I appreciate Hollow Ataraxia for those somber moments and characters interacting with each other in more relaxed, casual setting in comparison to Fate, when definitely the highlight was the high stake. It is now or never.
I like what you said about the backstories, because in Fate Stay Night, there weren't always good times to get into these sorts of backstories, but Hollow Ataraxia, half of it is designed to be slice of life. You get those opportunities. You get to see why, Shinji is actually friends with Emiya. It's the sort of thing.
Think that
it wouldn't really have made any sense to drop that flashback in Fate Stay Night at any point, but here, now it's the perfect opportunity.
I actually think that the like those events in Hollow Ataraxia, like they were intended to be in Fate Stay Night, but like it just became too long as a story in Fate Stay Night, so they ended up cutting it from Fate Stay Night and put it in Hollow Ataraxia. That's my running theory.
I believe
Possibly,
it.
although the one I remember the most from Hollow Ataraxia has to deal with Archer and the whole dialogue about Hero of Justice. That was just hilarious sequence between him and those three minor characters.
Him
and the cat being rescued from the tree. Oh, that was the setup, yeah.
him lecturing those 3 schoolgirls
Oh my
about
God, that's
justice and heroes. They just do not care.
absolute cinema.
Yeah. Oh, and then speaking of 3, there's the other of the big 3 of the original Fate titles. Fate Zero. August, is there much of a difference between the Fate Zero light novel and the Fate Zero anime? Because I've only seen the anime, so I'm not really keyed into the intricacies.
So I've read both, or at least I've read the source for Fate Zero and have watched the anime. Both are pretty, I guess, close enough to be like a 1-to-1 comparison between the two. The anime definitely shows Zero being a lot more of a, I guess, darker, grittier vibe from what the anime sets the tone as. But the light novel focuses more on Kiritsugu and Kotomine's like inner thoughts and their thought process and mentality behind everything they do. And I think if you're into that, you would definitely want to read the light novel a little bit more, just for those internal conversations.
Then I have to. I finally have to bring myself to read it because I have the light novel. I just never read it. I never sat down to read it. I definitely got that motivation of exactly what you're describing. Yes, I want more of that dynamic between Kiritsugu and now it flow from the other character from their inner thoughts. Sorry? Kirei. Oh yeah, Kirei. So I immediately ordered the book, and when it arrived, I had other things to do, and I never got around to read it.
Whoops.
Yeah, it's a pretty short read altogether, so if you just have some spare time, it's nothing much to go through. So compared to like some of the other titles in here that have like 13 volumes or so out of like light novels, like Strange Fake.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of, there's the whole extraverse, huh? And oh man, it gets a little. They're all so different, but so similar at the same time. So first off, there's Fate Extra, and that's the dungeon crawler, right?
Yes, Fate Extra and Fate Extra CCC are dungeon crawling JRPGs. Pretty much how it is that you just walk down a corridor and then you fight enemies until you get to the goal, or you complete the goal objective you were meant to be in there for. But in terms of the overall format, it's tournament style. Basically, it is a 1v1 duel, and then you just proceed further along the tournament bracket until you're the final winner at the end. So an extra is taking place. All of this is taking place in like 2030, in the distant future on the moon.
In the moon cell. Yeah, I've played Extra, and I mean, I've kind of dabbled a little with all the other spin-offs and stuff, but I don't really care much for the setting. It's all of the sci-fi stuff trying to be mixed in with the Fate, historical servant summonings and all of that. It's just made for a kind of weird aesthetic. And I guess, I'm sure other people love it, but as for me, I just couldn't really get into it.
How I see Fate Extra is if you took the Fate concept and you add a lot more sci-fi elements to it. That's how I view it, but at the same time, you also get this like really intimate bonding session between the servants in Extra, because say Nero, Tamamo, and Archer, all of them become really closely intertwined with the main characters of the Fate verse. So, and it's nice to see their relationship grow more passionately in there.
Well, I gotta ask, and I'll promise I won't do this often in this video because I haven't had experience majority of those titles, but I have to ask, why Moon? What is going on? I hear Moon for the first time.
Wouldn't you like to know, Fate fan?
I'm assuming Nasu was like, hey, I think this would be a cool thing to happen. Besides, Nasu already has his whole like obsession with the moon and Tsukihime, so why not to explore the moon and Fate a little bit more?
We will make the moon plot relevant.
One small step for the writer, one big step for a servant, I see. Okay.
And then we get to Extella and Extella Link. And, you mentioned having that connection between the few servants that you really get to bond through the entire game. And then that Extella and Extella Link kind of turn into the Musou genre. And then it just becomes more on the action or gameplay. Is that so?
Yes. So Extra and Extra CCC are dungeon crawling games, but in Extella and Extella Link, they transformed their gameplay into more of a action hack and slash Musou type of game. So if you're familiar with Dynasty Warriors, it's like that, where you're controlling one servant and then you're just doing a bunch of flashy action moves to kill like hundreds of enemies at once. So that's the type of gameplay that Extella and Extella Link focuses on. And it happens... Technically, it happens after Fate Extra. I say technically because there's always like, it's a sequel, but it's technically an alternate universe sequel. I won't get into that now, but it happens after Fate Extra's events, and it has a little bit more of a lore significance for the Extraverse. So,
do you like the gameplay in Extra or Extella more?
Extra is a relic of its time. I do not like the dungeon exploration. And the game was originally on a PSP, so it's very outdated in terms of like everything from just the movement being way too slow, from the rock paper scissors gameplay. It's just very boring.
Yeah.
So that makes me very much excited for the Fate Extra Record game, which is a remake of the Fate Extra game. Whenever that will come out, who knows? But I am very excited for that.
I'm actually a little the opposite. I'm kind of wondering what the heck they're going to do with the battle system. If they're just going to totally revamp it, or if they're going to try to have some sort of roots to the original game. But I don't know. I'm going to wait to see it before I get any hyped for it.
So from the gameplay of Fate Extra Record, I think it's supposed to be this like card deck system, or like, I don't know if you guys played Slay the Spire, but I think it's supposed to be like type of like card battling system.
A
roguelike like that. Not like a roguelike, but just the card system. I haven't played Slay the Spire, but that's what it looks like visually.
Okay. In fact, that may be more similar to the Fate Grand Order system.
Don't lure me to the infinite that is Fate using comparison to card games that I've played a ton of. Don't do it to me, please.
No. That's how they get you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just whenever that game eventually comes out.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of alternate universe stuffs, then there's also Fate Apocrypha, right? I'm still not ever sure how to say it. Like, you could see it there, but I'm never sure on the pronunciations or the stressed syllables.
I think you got it right.
Apocrypha.
Yeah, Fate Apocrypha.
Apocrypha.
Yeah, they're it's a entirely different story, but it's more of a battle royale. I'm not sure if you guys are super familiar with it.
Yeah, 2 teams of 7. I am so mad that we did not get official Sieg and Astolfo romance. They had so much better chemistry, and instead they had to have the main relationship of Sieg and Jean. I was actually mad. I usually don't care about shipping or any sort of romantic plot lines and stories or whatever, but I was heated. I was like, how are you gonna tempt us with Sieg and Astolfo? They were great. Oh my gosh.
They're very good partners. The romance is kind of just like there for the sake of it. I wasn't really paying attention to all the romance bit. I was just more concerned about all the big giant action that was happening, all of the the anime shows off a lot of cool action scenes, a lot of cool fight scenes in there.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
For the Apocrypha. How does it relate to the canonicity of Fate? Even if there is such a thing about canonicity.
What, to Fate Stay Night?
To Fate, maybe, in general.
Fate in general. Yeah, so Fate Apocrypha, the timeline splits off when I believe one of the big masters in one of the factions, they stole the Fuyuki Holy Grail War at some point before Fate Stay Night. Fate Stay Night is, I think, the fourth. I don't remember if it's the fourth or fifth Holy Grail War, but I think the fifth Holy Grail War. Okay, so the Holy Grail War was initially stolen, I think, in around like the second or the third Holy Grail War. It was stolen there, and it was taken to Europe. And I think that's when, the entirety of Fate Apocrypha happens, because the Mages Association is trying to get the Grail back, but then the person who stole the Grail was like, no, we're going to keep it for ours. We're going to keep it for ourselves. And
Understandable.
Okay, so the
and then that whole entire thing just like devolves into conflict, and then that eventually leads into Lost Anhayard and stuff like that.
Okay, so that was the eternal rule of Finders keepers, losers weepers. Okay, and I'm trying to decipher the name, because Apocrypha means that it's not an accepted canon of a scripture relating to biblical writings. So I was like, how does that contradict a canonicity of things? Okay, I see now. Alternative universe before Fate could happen. Someone stole the ritual somehow.
I mean, you're trying to find meanings in these Fate names, like the original wasn't called Fate Stay Night. What does that mean?
Yeah, and you stay the night, okay?
You stay the night, you sleep, you have a good sleep.
Multiple times in the story. Okay.
Got it.
I think...
And in the morning you eat cooking. That happened plenty in the stay night, right?
Yeah. I think the name for Apocrypha actually comes from a specific... It's referencing a specific character, but I can't mention them because that would be spoiler territory.
Oh.
Yeah.
So, but who knows?
And what is this next one that I've never heard of? Lost Einherjar? Is that right?
Yes. Lost Einherjar. I think it's Nordish, but it specifically focuses on the Valkyries. I think I have that mythology right. So yeah, this takes place after the events of Fate Apocrypha, and this focuses on, I think, one of the descendants of the Yuga the Millennia clan, which is one of the families that's featured in Apocrypha. Yeah, so I think the general premise of Lost Anhayard is that it's another Holy Grail War, but it's like a 2v2 type of situation. And the main character, Lamina, she summons two servants. She summons Ragnar, which is the king of the Vikings. And then she also summons Aslarg, which is the last of the Valkyries, which is also Brynhildr and Sigurd's daughter as well. So it's the two of them versing against other two different servants. But what's really interesting about Lost Anhayard is that, yes, while the fights are ongoing, the main conflict that's actually a bit more interesting is that Ragnar and Aslarg, the two servants, are actually husband and wife in canon, or rather in history. But in the present day, when they were summoned, Aslarg does not remember her relationship with Ragnar.
Oh,
which is very interesting.
You get the drama.
Yeah, not very complicated feelings when the wife does not remember the husband. Meanwhile, the husband does remember the wife. Very fun situations.
Oh, and that's an ongoing manga?
It is a ongoing light novel.
Light
By
novel.
ongoing, I mean it only has one volume so far. That was released back in, I think, 5 years ago or something.
Whoops. Okay.
And has not received any volumes ever since.
Next one, any day now.
So how it goes sometimes. Because I mean, then you have
Yeah.
something like Fate Prototype, which was just a collection of ideas. And, you know, realistically, you don't ever see, you're not going to expect that to ever see the light of day. And I mean, I'm skipping ahead a little, but that's why you have something like Fate Grand Order, which I feel like one of its benefits is that it can give, you know, updates, or it can show some signs of life for all sorts of other weird spin-offs and, you know, canceled material or what ifs. Because Fate Prototype, like, I think before it had an OVA, like a 10-minute animated opening or something for it. But then realistically, it's like, what more are you going to do? If you're Type Moon, are you going to devote like an entirely new anime series towards this? And I mean, that's a big ask. And I mean, or you just kind of do something half-hearted like the OVA. But then you have a game like Fate Grand Order, and now you've got, you know, excuses to run an event or introduce new characters and give them at least something. A few scenes. Give some sort of realization to these cool ideas you had kicking around.
Fate Prototype was initially Nasu's, I guess, first concept. It was his first draft. You can think of it like that, where everything was a bit more gender bent. So Saber is a male in this one. The main character is a female. And then you also have a couple of the other servants as well that make their appearances. You have Gilgamesh, and then you have Kukulane. So I'm assuming it's just Nasu's first drawings, or first, I guess, concepts realized in that 10-minute OVA series, or 10-minute OVA episode, which is nice. I think it was just mostly a, don't quote me on this, but I think it was like an extra special thing that came with a, collector's edition of something.
Mm-hmm.
I may be wrong for that, but I think it was just like an extra goodie on the side.
I do have an important question. Does Proto Saber count as a member of Saber Faces?
Saber Faces visually, no, but he is technically still a Saber. Like the Saber we all know, just gender bent.
You gotta be careful asking around if certain individuals are Saber Faces or not. That's a dangerous question, man. Some people won't take kindly to your answer.
Okay.
And then we get into Prisma Ilia. I've watched the anime up to the movie, so I guess it was 3 up to season 3. Well, season 3, season 4 up to the movie.
No, you're right.
I have the opinion the first season was the best. I liked it most when it was the magical girl show, and you were hitting all of the familiar beats, and that last episode. Oh, with the theme music. Oh my gosh. And then everything after that tried to get into more serious stories, and they never really hit the mark for me. Like, in a vacuum, I understand that, like, they're supposed to be, you know, exploring new characters and getting into the backstories and all sorts of different worlds, but it got further and further away from me from feeling like Fate series.
Funny you say that. I actually think like the latter seasons, specifically like the 4th season and the movies, they're like more Fate than ever before. Of course it still has that magical girl DNA in it, but it's just more of with Fate eccentricities in it. And this is coming from someone who's both read the manga and who has watched the anime series as well. So, and both are really enjoyable. Well,
I completely am on the side with August on this one. Like, specifically from Dre onward, the stuff they've been involved with and the stories they try to tell got to me, and I really like that Iliaverse, I suppose you can call it. And one of the few titles that I've seen as an anime first, but compelled me enough that I binged manga immediately after.
Big fan of the Iliaverse. All right.
Yeah, the way they utilize servants is very interesting in this title. In a way, they condensed the amount of characters they have because they don't need to develop servants themselves. They rather act like proxies by using those cards, installing those personas on top of the characters of the magical girls and or users of those cards. But as a consequence of that, you have less of a cast to develop. I felt like that was actually interesting way of doing things and a very interesting direction of what they took with that Iliaverse.
I think like Prismilia definitely has weight itself, but other people just tend to dismiss it, being like, oh, okay, it's just magical girl Ilya stuff, and then the girls kiss and whatnot. But there's still a much deeper, much more meaningful story underneath of it all. Like, yeah, some people won't know this on surface level, but the Oath Under Snow movie, the Prismilia movie, the first one, that's honestly, you could consider that like as a fourth route of Fate Stay Night featuring Shiro. Because it specifically focuses on it specifically focuses on him alone and how he's dealing with the entire situation in Prismilia.
Not gonna lie, I didn't like the Oath Under Snow movie.
Oof. Okay.
No, to me, it veered too much into fan fiction. I was like, someone saw Fate Stay Night and they wanted to make it cooler, and they just borrowed a whole bunch of pre-existing elements from other Fate works and said, okay, here's my even better, even cooler, even hyper Fate Stay Night. And I was like, okay, I think this is too much for me.
I saw Fate, or I saw the Oath Under Snow movie as like the Heaven's Feel route, but it had a very bittersweet ending. That's how I view it.
Oh.
Ooh.
And then we get to Type Redline. Type Moon seems to really like Okita.
I definitely do think they have a bias. They have a bias towards Okita and Nobunaga.
Yeah, they get their own events annually. They get their own spin-off materials. I remember in Grand Order, Okita has one of the interludes, which is pretty much a very serious look at the end of her life with the Shinsengumi and all of that. And it was one of the best interludes I've read. And I thought, wow, there's a lot of emotion and a lot of meaning to what's going on with Okita's character. And I'm glad. I haven't read Redline, but I am glad and I am interested to read more into it someday.
Yeah, Type Redline's a pretty hype manga to read. Like, lots of cool stuff happens when really, really well drawn artwork in it, and it just overall, I just love all the characters in it. It's funny because, like, Type Redline originally was created as a gag manga, and then it was created as a gag manga and then spun off into its own spin-off based on that, but still using the characters and the masters from that. But instead of the original gag manga being more comedy based, Type Redline is super serious and the characters are way more bloodthirsty in there.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely worth a read.
Something that's
especially like I also especially like how it's set in World War II, or at least on the end of World War II, and they're basically, the Japanese are using the servants as like their last ditch effort to win. But then the master is trying to stop all that from happening, which is entirely itself compelling on its own right.
And then one of the most interesting, maybe intriguing tiles, Fate Samurai Remnant, the AAA video game. I still haven't gotten around to playing it. I want to. It's on my backlog and I own it already. But I've always imagined, the whole Fate structure and the servants and the action would all be perfect for some sort of, AAA budget video game. That's it. It should be simple enough to just write itself.
Yeah. Fate Samurai Remnant is because I played it before. And it's a fun game if you view it in the lens of a hack and slash JRPG with just Fate elements in it. I think you're gonna have a pretty good time with it. The story's pretty interesting. The characters are all likable. Not many people have played it, which is unfortunate because there's a really cool character arc that happens into it. But I think it's the fact that it's a standalone one-off title, not something as continuous as Grand Order or not even an anime series that people just end up missing it. So it's just unfortunate.
I'm a sucker for character arcs. Ooh, nice. So I'm looking forward to it. Besides, there's over in the global server for Grand Order. At some point soon, we should be getting that Fate Samurai Remnant collab, so I gotta make sure to play it before then.
Yeah, it's a Fate. So the thing about that is that the collaboration event in Grand Order for Fate Samurai Remnant, it is essentially a sequel to what happens in the main story. So,
interesting.
Yeah, it's very I won't say it's I would say it's necessary to play Samurai Remnant, but more of a you need to know what have happened, even though you can read as a standalone. But it's very heavily recommended that you play Samurai Remnant before that.
Yeah, that's usually how their collab events go. By the way, what's going on with Fate Strange Fake? How many?
Yes, our yearly anime.
What the heck is the schedule? I've gone on a roller coaster of, oh, I'm so hyped, and what are we doing? So many times for the past couple years over how they're apparently deciding to release an anime series yearly. Just one episode a year.
The episodes are really nice.
Yeah.
They're really nicely animated. It's really cool. Whether or not we'll get to see it complete is an entirely different story.
Apparently we're supposed to be getting it some sort of schedule or some sort of consistent release end of this year, 2025, I think. I don't know if I believe them yet. I'll believe it when I see it.
We're supposed to be getting at least a new episode. That at the very least in January of 2025.
You get a
2026.
consistent schedule of once a year. Come on.
It feels like it. Speaking of consistent releases, Fate Requiem is kind of dead in the water, huh?
Yes. The Fate series that has released 2 volumes and has never released anything since.
Over the past 5 really years, right?
Pretty much, yeah. Really unfortunate. Because I do think it had relatively cool concepts, but I guess the author was like, okay, I got my main characters into Grand Order. I think I'm all good here. So
they tend to show
up. That's
up.
my running theory.
They tend to show up in the future in Grand Order too. They make cameos along the way. Unironically, yeah, Grand Order probably does more for it than whatever their current Requiem run is.
Yeah. Yeah, it's unfortunate because I think the main characters actually have some pretty cool, compelling aspects to them, especially the main character's backstory.
And then there's Fate Grand Order. There's been so much said about that game already. August, who's your favorite servant? This might be too. This might be too much. You might have to narrow it down to just a few favorites.
Oh boy. Well, I mean, at the current time, the grand servant summoning system is happening, and I've definitely granted a couple of my favorite units there. Morgan is one of my all-time favorites. Absolutely love her character and her whole ordeal in Lost Spell 6.
Same here. She's one of my favorites.
Also have a very big soft spot for Jalter. John Alter is just so lovable. She's great. Love her to death. And of course, can't forget our number one cutest Kohai ever, Mash Kirillite. Always the dependable one.
MASH is one of the greatest journeys, honestly. But from the start of the game, being there constantly throughout everything, oh man, how can you not?
She's good. Although I have yet to read the most recent story stuff, and I know that involves her, so I need to get some time to read that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm expecting good stuff from what I've seen online.
Mm-hmm. We'll have to leave it at that because otherwise we'll be here for hours about Grand Order.
Honestly, that's fair.
Instead, something much easier to digest, Carnival Phantasm.
Everyone's favorite comedy show.
Everyone's favorite Tsukihime anime.
I'm gonna say,
I think,
as a
honestly, Carnival
person
Phantasm is
who've never experienced any Tsukihime, I was super confused with Carnival Phantasm.
Oh, yeah, that's what'll happen. Oh my gosh, dude. MR.
It's half-half. It's half Tsukihime, half Fate stuff. But I think, it's definitely a lot more appreciative if you read Tsukihime, but I think you can just get the general vibe of what it's all about, really.
That one episode of the two main characters trying to date everyone on the same day at the same time.
Oh god.
Oh, that's
So
still
good.
funny. Mm-hmm.
I think my favorite. It may be overdone, but still my favorite jokes are just Kukulin dying repeatedly.
True.
All throughout every episode.
It just puts a smile on my face, be like, yes, that
killed
happens.
Ku, you bastard. Mm-hmm. And maybe not lastly. There's even more. But lastly, for us, there's El Meloy's case files.
Yeah, so this one I actually didn't address on my video, which is really unfortunate. Because I initially wanted to tell all about the different Fate Grail Wars, but I decided to expand the range for it a little bit more, and I ended up missing out on El Meloy case files. But I do think it's a significantly important title as well. It's basically Waver just going off on magical adventures with his students, whether he likes it or not.
He has to be the one to fix all of these silly shenanigans while complaining the whole way through.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's very interesting. This is also a pretty rare one in that we get to take a look into the magecraft side of things outside of servants. Because in many other Fate works, obviously it's focused on the fighting or Holy Grail Wars or the summoning historical servants to fight for you. But there is a whole world building, the whole background of the whole magecraft and all the other ways magic exists in the Fate universe. And El Meloy's case files is a really cool way of seeing all of the hidden sides of the lesser known applications and how they use all of their magecraft studies to overcome their own unique problems.
Yeah, if you're a really big fan of the world building and Fate, just from a magical technical standpoint, El Meloy Case Files is really good. What's also really nice is that it also functions as a kind of mystery novel in a certain way. The general vibe of it's at least how they would put it is that it doesn't focus on who done it or how done it, but why done it. Essentially, the method and who committed the crime doesn't matter. It's more about the intentions of the person who committed the crime and their motivations.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think that's just a very neat way of handling a mystery story. Because with Fate, Magecraft, some weird shenanigan is going on, and that's just how they're going to explain things. But I think what's really important is how that Magecraft is being used in the first place.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Whew. Well, thank you for getting to share your thoughts about all sorts of different Fate titles. I don't know about you, but this was certainly a lot to bite off, so congrats, dude.
Yeah, not many people are willing to openly discuss Fate, especially in its entirety, as often, because it's such a massive franchise. So this was a good opportunity to do so.
I came with a lot of questions and came off with a lot of confusion. So I don't know if that was an equal trade, but okay. It was a pleasure hosting you, August. And to all our listeners, please check him out. He had an amazing video that serves as an inspiration for this episode about Fate Titles Explained. Go check it out. As well as you've recently posted the Mav Love Extra Plus Unlimited video that was spectacular. And don't forget my favorite, the Monster Girl Quest video, because I laughed so hard when you tried to describe fights and it had the vibe of, if you know, you know.
Yeah, any last words for everyone, August?
I just think thank you for those who've stayed till the very end, and I hope you all have a great day.
Thank you again, August, and venture out.
Venture out.